So this is a video in response to Whisperstadus74's question as far as mid-gen cycle refreshes and whether we thought they were a good thing or a bad thing. By the way, I've got Horizon Zero Dawn here, a game that I was initially disappointed in how it performed on the PlayStation 4 Pro with the 75-inch Sony 900E. Their 4K television. I just didn't see the HDR performance being that impressive. Having said that, I really do enjoy just the regular SDR in this game. For whatever reason, I just can't get the HDR to work properly. It just seems a little overblown. Not a little overblown, a whole lot overblown, as far almost unplayable. But as you can see, I hope you can see, the game is actually very beautiful when you're just doing standard HDR. But I digress. Getting back to the point on whether a mid-gen recycle is a good thing or a bad thing. And for that, to answer that truly, I just want to backtrack a little bit and say when I initially saw that they'd be doing the mid-gen refreshes, I wasn't actually a very big fan of the whole concept. But I'll get into that later. What I really want to do is kind of do a short deconstruction of what actually happened in this generation of hardware and why I ended up changing my mind on how I felt about a mid-cycle refresh, or basically that's what it is, just changing the hardware mid-generation and the challenges that presented and the good and the bad. When this generation first started, we were about 7 years after the PlayStation 3 and about 8 years after the Xbox 360. I had high hopes, very high and maybe slightly unrealistic hopes for what I wanted or I expected from the 8th gen. And I really thought because we were so far, or taking the extra year off, and the prices of consoles had been going up, you were looking at a $500 to really $600 console for the PlayStation 3 and a $500 console for the Xbox 360, because that's, in order to get the hard drives, that's what you had to invest, $500 really, $600 with the PlayStation. I thought the consoles were going to be maybe not quite around 20 times as powerful, but I thought close to it. I really thought, well, actually, in the case of the PlayStation 4, really, actually, truly about 20 times as powerful. So I was hoping for a 3.6 teraflop unit. Now, we did get just as much RAM as I thought we would, because we were somewhere between 500 and 600 megabytes of RAM for the 360 and the PlayStation 3. So we hit the mark on the RAM. We got a lot of RAM, 8 whole gigabytes. But I thought the fact that we had basically waited that extra year, and the fact that we were now paying more than ever for consoles, and where I thought technology would be, and hopefully this doesn't continue to bite me in the backside, because I've got some pretty crazy predictions for the PlayStation 5, which I'm going to do another video on. But given the fact that I was hoping for, or given the fact that we did wait an extra year, and the technology available at the time was 20 nanometers. And I understand that we never really saw that. What we ended up seeing was about 28 nanometers. And the reason why is that we were seeing some big growth in the smartphone factor. And what they were able to do, and I sold cell phones for, 5 years at least, at Best Buy and at Radio Shack. And I'm a big believer in the smartphone. And did a lot of predictions. Actually, my predictions were based on predictions made by Bill Gates, which I thought initially were crazy, but I digress. Listen, guys, you could hear me talk about things for hours and hours and hours. In fact, there was a lot of things in the last video I did as far as what I want to see in the PlayStation 5 that I wasn't able to get in those 2 videos, and I'm going to do initial videos because initially when we did the discussion on those, it was a 3-hour discussion me and my girlfriend had. So I can go on and on and on. But getting back to the mid-gen cycles, console refreshes. Gosh, if I can even speak. I expected a much more powerful console, but what we ended up having is a manufacturing process because the 20 nanometer chips were being used up by cell phones, and cell phones run anywhere from these smartphones at the time. I know they're getting up to 1200 right now, 1000, 1200, 1600 for the titanium version of the, what's it called, the red hydrogen one, which I'm actually looking at getting, believe it or not, guys. But yes, so if you've got cell phone manufacturers, and I just died. I didn't expect that to happen, but it happened. When you have the cell phone manufacturers buying up all the chips at 20 nanometers, and they're selling these phones for $700 to $800 at the time, they're going to get these phones, the chips. They're able to pay more for these chips because they're paying more for the devices. And a console, I would wager, is you're trying to give as much as possible for a certain price point. And at the price that they were selling the PlayStation 4, they weren't able to be competitive for those chips. So instead of getting 20 nanometer or 22 nanometers, as I initially thought, which would have easily given, especially if you consider the fact that I expected the price point to be at around $500. I was actually surprised when I found out that it was actually cheaper, $400. But when we got those consoles for $500, I was genuinely surprised. I'm gonna run away here. I really don't want to keep dying over and over again. I have no idea. It doesn't feel like something I want to do in a video game while I'm talking to you guys. I call it pride or hubris or whatever situation may be. I just don't want to do it. I just want Hakuna Matata, just move around. Basically what I do this for is to have some kind of interesting background related to what I'm talking about, which is gaming. That's why I just kind of, you'll see me walk around in circles sometimes. I was trying to do something different in an open world, but it's kind of hard to avoid combat. Not to mention I have it on mute so you can hear me talk, and it makes it hard for me to get audio clues and actually play. But so anyways, long story short, I expected I didn't realize they were going to be doing SoCs, which is a cost-cutting measure, and I didn't realize the price point was going to be so low. So obviously, these chips, these consoles of PlayStation 4, which I was delighted with, by the way, because on a 55-inch 1080p panel, it still delivered some amazing-looking games. And I was coming from the PlayStation 2 and the OG Xbox, the first Xbox ever produced. It's kind of crazy that I have to refer to it so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yes, the original Xbox that was ever produced, that had an X almost on top of the box. It had the X integrated into the design of the box. That's where I was coming from when I got the PlayStation 4. I wasn't too interested in Don Maddox's vision for the Xbox, and I was disappointed even more in the Xbox One than I was the PlayStation 4, so I just stayed away from it. When Phil Spencer came around with the 180 and what I refer to as the Phil Spencer doctrine, I was interested. It perked my interest, but I still didn't want to buy in because I didn't like the box. Obviously, they changed that, which kind of ties into what I appreciate or what I like about the mid-cycle refreshes. But Having said that, one of the other reasons I thought that we should get more powerful hardware for DHN is that 4K was right around the corner. I remember seeing something about 4K prototypes in 2012, and actually going into a store in 2013, in the summer of 2013, before the HN even launched, and looking at Sony and Samsung 55 and 65 inch 4K televisions and thinking, oh wow, this is so amazing. And thinking to myself, it's a shame that we're not going to get enough power to drive these 4K displays with the Xbox One and the Sony PlayStation 4. Having said that, though, I was very invested in the success of the PlayStation 4 for a variety of reasons. One of the things I saw was a callous underestimation of players' needs and their own representation of their own interests by the PlayStation, or by the Xbox One X. Or not the Xbox One X, my apologies, the Xbox One. So when I saw what Don Maddox and company was trying to do, I thought to myself, you know, these guys are looking at us like we're some 14-year-old gamers. They don't realize that the average age of a gamer is right around from, I think, 34 to 36, depends on what you look up. But they're only getting older. And I think with the 9th gen, what we're going to end up getting is gamers that are even older than that. I see gamers getting on the platform for 9th gen, especially PlayStation 5, because of their narrative-driven focus. We're going to see people in their 50s and 60s. There's already gamers in their 50s who play PlayStation 5 and Xbox One X, by the way. So in a lot of ways, I'm not the oldest gamer in the world. But having said that, trying to stay on topic, this is obviously going to be a much longer video than I wanted it to be, or than I thought it would be, but there's things to discuss. Basically, you weren't going to be getting 4K representation or support on DHN. And while I don't believe that PC gaming was really going to take over, there's something to be said about console gaming. I do understand their apprehension and their distress because it would seem that as 4K got more and more support, that the only place you could do 4K gaming would be on a PC. But as far as my interest in the growth of the PlayStation 4 platform, and I think intrinsically the core of where fanboyism comes from, it's tied into tribalism, which could be basically the base of both bigotry and racism in a way. It's a fundamental human function that, if corrupted or unquestioned or left unchecked, can lead to things like racism and bigotry and discrimination and all those types of things. And one of the examples we see is political parties and, yes, the console wars, these factions. So I think that's pretty much where we're going to leave right now. This is going to be a 2 or 3 part video. I didn't expect it to be so long, but there's a lot that I want to unpack here. So I'm going to ask you guys to stay tuned, rate, comment, and subscribe. If you like anything that you're seeing here, please hit the like button. That helps me out even more than subscriptions. If you really, really like it, subscribe. But the most important thing to me personally is being able to address people in a conversational standpoint. So if you comment, guys, I will try to do my best to respond to your comments. Anyways, please rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll be right back.